what you're seeing right here is not a fever dream. That right there is a truck, yes, a truck, battling with fully modified touring cars at Laguna Seca. I know this might bring up a bunch of questions, like how did that thing even end up in a touring car competition, and why does he keep calling it a truck? But don't worry, those will all be answered soon enough as we go through this Gran Turismo 3 challenge run. Because I haven't played this game in a while, and with my last two challenge runs being both done in the second and fourth main installment respectively, it would only be fair to do the next one in the game right in between. But formulating a good challenge for GT3 can be difficult, as it massively stripped down the car and track roster in favor of optimizing the game for the, at the time, new console generation. So I looked at some other runs like Dove's European car run and Eden's Price car only run, and the former gave me an idea. What if I tried doing this with only cars from the land of the free? They kinda lack any good late game race cars, or cars in general, so this would already be a decent challenge in itself. However, there are still race cars like the Corvette C5R and Viper GT-SR, which could easily make the challenge a breeze later on. But the solution for this is simple. I banned them. All of them. So no concept cars, no race cars, not even rally cars. Only the finest American road-going machines that make you go, "Hell yeah, brother," will be the ones allowed in this run. Except for Acuras, because those are just rebadged Hondas. Sorry, Streaks.
Oh, dang it.
Now, obviously, I would have to modify these machines and make them slightly less than road legal if I ever want to accomplish my objective, which would be to win the Gran Turismo World Championship on all 3 difficulties, where I would have to battle with anything from these touring cars to some bona fide legends of Le Mans. So join me on this journey as we answer the question whether Gran Turismo 3 is beatable using only American road cars. The first thing I did was to head straight for the license center to get my first license. Since Gran Turismo 3 has a completely different physics model when compared to its successor, this will be a good opportunity to get accustomed to the game. Luckily, the license tests themselves haven't changed much, so I got to work on those golden times and noticed that the tests are surprisingly easy? Wow, that was easy. Wow, okay. that was not a perfect run. Now, ironically, the North American or NTSC version of the game has a whole bunch of tests with easier time requirements. So once my chat notified me of this, I wanted to see if I could beat the harder times from the game's European or PAL version too. Unsurprisingly, this was a lot more difficult as I was still not fully used to the physics yet, but after a few more minutes I finally got a run which was just enough to make it through. There we go, okay, I did it. A PAL Gold on NTSC. But then, I arrived at one of the most infamous tests in the entire franchise, National B8. This test involves the red R32 Skyline at Tri-Mountain's tricky first sector, which by itself already makes this one pretty difficult. But what makes it even more egregious is how difficult the requirement for the gold medal is. If even the demonstration replay takes lines as tight as this, you know you're in for a pretty tough time. Luckily, since this iconic car and track combination was obviously not reused in any of the follow-up games, I was able to do this one surprisingly quickly, although that PAL time did take about twice as long. But once that was all done, I had secured my first license, as well as a baby blue Miata, which I then immediately sacrificed for the greater good. So now that I was allowed to enter some races, it was time to buy my first car, and after taking a look at all the cars I won't be driving in this playthrough, I'm sorry Suzuki, not this time. You already know that this will be the Chrysler PT Cruiser. After taking it in a color that will certainly not haunt some of you in your dreams, I would normally be left with only 20 credits, but since I sold the Miata earlier, I was able to change the oil as well as apply a few more power upgrades, bringing the car up from 149 brake horsepower to a pretty respectable 183. I then skipped the Sunday Cup and instead headed straight for the first naturally aspirated Car Cup. Jumping into a later championship right away is a bit risky, but since the potential reward is 5 times bigger and with upgrades being my main priority, this was my best option for now. So it was time to head to Apricot Hill to finally begin my racing journey, and the car performed surprisingly well. On the inside we go. Barely keeping it on the track. Even though the car is in true American fashion pretty heavy when compared to the opposition, it remained pretty drivable as I had a really competitive first race. The opponents did stick with me once I passed them, but with a consistent second lap I would cruise to my first victory, with the added power giving me just enough speed at the end to win. Surprisingly though, the second race at Grand Valley Speedway was a lot easier, claiming first place within the first sector, after which I simply cruised it to victory. But once I came back to Apricot Hill for the final race, things looked a lot more difficult. Oh, they're quicker, I think. Yeah, they're definitely quicker. Oh wow, okay, they're a lot quicker all of a sudden. You may be wondering, did he suddenly contract a devastating virus known as Scilus Ischulus? Well, not really, or at least, I hope so, because these are the first signs of the game showing off its rubber banding system. Even though the opponents don't get more power, they do get stronger rubber banding in later races of an event, something that will become quite important and honestly pretty ridiculous later on. But I had no time to think about that yet. Since I managed to claim 3rd place, I now had a nice 12,000 credits to bolster my car's performance. And once again I stayed true to the American way, as everything was spent increasing its straight line speed to the point where I now had to launch the car in 2nd gear. Now, since it was still on stock tires and suspension that's softer than on some lowriders, my first attempts were futile. The MR2 that was in the race also looked to be absolutely possessed and nearly impossible to keep up. But I know just the right way to deal with these opponents when the game grants them these kinds of advantages. Out of my way. That's how we deal with cheater cars like you. After that totally fair overtaking maneuver, I received another blue car to donate to the Streaks Fund, allowing me to get some proper suspension and a little bit more power. Considering the car now had just over 200 horsepower while weighing just under 1200 kilograms, surely it won't have a single chance at super speedway against some real American muscle cars, right? Well, turns out that the PT Cruiser had an ace up its sleeve as it suddenly became a PT Bruiser. No, we're actually catching the Corvette, come on. Yeah, buddy. Oh, dude, the handling is so much better. It's like a world of difference. Amazing, just passing him. Okay, we can win this. We have a genuine chance we can win this. Side draft, come on! Yeah! 200 kilometers per hour. Oh, dude, he's braking so much for this turn. We're just yeeting it in, and we're in 1st place. Let's go! I think we got it. I think we have him. We actually win with this thing. I cannot believe it. We actually win. The PT Bruiser again, man. With a few more wins in the bag, it really started to look like this car had quite some potential. Even though the last 2 races are impossible for now, because again, the game just makes the opponents faster here, it did give me some genuine hope that the PT Cruiser could carry me far enough into this playthrough so by the time I would be done, I would have plenty of funds to build a new and better track weapon. This became even more true once I completed the beginner's front-wheel drive cup. After receiving the one and only meme machine of the game, I bought myself some racing tires, and now that my tiny truck would actually handle remarkably well, my fellow American opponents would find out what happens when your car is suddenly able to properly turn right. Oh, the handling is so much better. I can immediately feel the car pulling through the turns. After witnessing the Shelby Cobra's famous binalas at this track, I claimed a hard-fought but convincing victory at Laguna Seca, and shortly after, the race at Sierra would also be mine, as well as a Camaro SS that will once again totally not bring some Vietnam flashbacks to some of you. Now, considering the car was starting to rapidly approach its peak performance, the natural course of action is to now do the Sunday Cup and realize how much better the car is, allowing me to win with margins over 10 seconds on 2-lap races. I then received an AE86, which I then immediately sold, and bought a few more upgrades, and surprisingly the PT Bruiser is one of the only American cars that can be turbocharged. The Stage 2 turbo upgrade not only gives the PT Cruiser nearly 300 brake horsepower, it also makes it eligible for the Turbo Sports Cup, where the car was now so quick that it actually started topping out on the stock gearbox. Regardless, it would go on to destroy a bunch of Japanese and European sports cars in the process, while also getting my first taste of Special Stage Route 11, of which the final sector definitely needs some unzipping in Windroad. I'm sorry to ruffle on anyone else who likes this track, but I genuinely feel like I'm driving through Abu Dhabi's final sector here. I just don't like it. Anyway, slugfest or not, I did unfortunately fail my first attempt, but after some practice here, it was yet another easy victory for the tiny truck. The event then shifted gears very rapidly as the final race was at Test Course, a 10km full-speed oval track, so that stock gearbox wasn't going to cut it anymore. So I threw in a straight-cut customizable gearbox into the Cruiser, gave it some tuning and realized that it not only had 6 gears now, it also proceeded to absolutely dumpster the opponents before we even reached the end of the first straight. Just leaving him in the dust. At this point, the PT Bruiser had already proven itself more than well enough, beating all of the races I could do on the first license. And speaking of which, it was time to obtain the next one, which surprisingly didn't take me nearly as long as the first license to get all gold medals for, except for one of them, and those of you familiar with the series probably know that that is National A7, also known as the Gran Turismo Free PTSD Camaro test. This one only involves a simple 19-degree turn at the end of Seattle's first sector, but simple definitely doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, this is undoubtedly one of the hardest license tests in the entire game to get a gold medal on. But after only 10 minutes, I got this run. Actually, I've got a better idea with this clip. Oh, that should be the line. That should be the line. That should be gold. Easy gold! I immediately had the idea that was gonna be gold from the moment I entered that turn, and it was exactly what I meant. It's exactly gold. The wide entry, compared with the little slide I had coming through the turn, gave me just the perfect line to get this one out of the way in a relatively short amount of time. And after finishing the final test, I obtained my next license, which I then immediately used to enter the Turbo Sports Cup on a higher difficulty. That, however, was still a bit too much for the cruiser, so I instead headed over to the Amateur Front-Wheel Drive Cup. Since most of the Amateur League races are 5 laps or longer, I would also get my first experience of tire wear here, but since I bought some slick or hard tires, they easily lasted me the whole race and gave me some quick victories. I then tried my luck again by bringing it to the Amateur Stars and Stripes Cup, where I once again battled Cobras and Corvettes on the Super Speedway, and after a pretty difficult fight, it once again reigned supreme. It did get into some trouble at Seattle, however, as a well-behaved and very yellow Shelby Cobra made my life pretty difficult, but after refining the car's drivetrain with a better clutch and differential, it would eventually fall to the mighty Bruiser. So now the PT Cruiser was well on its way to help me beat a sizable part of the game, but why do I even call it a truck? Well, the reason for that is something called CAFE. No, not coffee or a place where you drink it, I mean the CAFE fuel economy standards, for which at the time Chrysler needed a way to reduce it. Naturally, since trucks have a much higher emission than a normal car, they managed to somehow get this hot rod looking thing to be classified as one. This then leads us to where we are right now, and in my case, the PT Cruiser was now anything but a truck by any possible performance metric. That didn't mean I was done upgrading my car yet, as I still needed the final NA tuning upgrade and the super soft tire compound to truly max the car out. These would turn out to be quite pricey though, so I turned to the American and European Regional Championships. But after only a single race, my audience, which you can join on Twitch by the way, told me that I had a little problem. Oil light is actually burning now. I just passed 300 kilometers with this car. That's so strange, I would never see that light in any other game before, like, you know, for my own doing basically. Without even realizing, I had already driven over 300 kilometers, which is conveniently the exact distance at which you need to replace the oil in Gran Turismo to get back to peak power again. This is probably what caused me to lose out on winning all the races in the American Championship, but I still won with a pretty big lead of 14 points. This is also the championship where you can obtain the Camaro LM race car, which, even though I can't use it due to the rules I've set, is one of the best American cars in the game. So it will be a shame if the game would allow give it as a prize car. There's no way! There's no way I call it like that! Oh no! Oh no! That's just illegal. Yeah, whether this was some kind of foreshadowing to what's to come or my excellent prediction skills, I did manage to add a pretty nice car to my collection. I could have sold it and immediately maxed out my cruiser, but that would have been boring and it would have been just too much of a shame to sell this thing. And besides, I now had enough for the super soft racing tires anyway, so I threw them on the car and took it for a spin, where I could easily dominate on a track I previously struggled with. But I still felt like there was something missing, something that will really add the finishing touch to this car. Now she's ready to go. And what better way to test it by embarrassing a Pagani Zonda. It did provide some resistance, but the mighty PT Bruiser with its beautiful red rims was able to win at every single race. With a special mention for the penultimate race, because that one was basically just one huge meme. I was taking a very unnecessary risk with that one. I was taking a very unnecessary risk, but I still got it. Okay, let's definitely cry about it. This championship victory, combined with a couple more races, finally gave me enough funds to buy the last remaining upgrades. And although this 70,000 credit costing NA tuning would only give me 15 more horsepower, I could now finally say that the PT Cruiser was fully maxed out and ready for its final test, the first Gran Turismo World Championship. This is where the game will start to put you up against real race cars, but since it's only the first out of 3 tiers of a World Championship this game has to offer, the races will only last for a few laps and the opponents here will consist of a bunch of rally and touring cars. Since they all have around 300 horsepower, this turned out to be a surprisingly perfect fit considering our similarity in power to weight ratios. And although they have more downforce, or any downforce in general, my car has better tires. So after beating a couple more of the easier events and making the odometer exceed 500 kilometers, it was time to head to Tokyo's finest street circuit to begin the first World Championship. Oh, look at that, we're catching up already. Oh, there we go. The soft tires are kicking in now. Yeah, the soft tires are kicking in, there we go. There it is. There's the tire advantage. Imagine having to brake for this turn so early in. Bye guys! Full throttle for the chicane? Yeah, there we go. 200 kilometers per hour for the chicane, no problem. We were beating him super handsomely now in this race. This first race, and subsequent victory at Tokyo Route 246, was both surprising and kinda refreshing as I never had any luck with this track in the past from my runs in Gran Turismo 4. This momentum was then carried straight into the next race at Super Speedway, where the downforce seemed to only hamper the AI's top speed. But then with the third race being at Trial Mountain, I started to get into some trouble. The 2 GT300 touring cars in this championship turned out to be pretty fast here, which wasn't helped by me having to pass the rally cars in the track's tricky first sector. I was then able to give chase in the second lap, but I also started to make some mistakes of my own, barely edging out second place thanks to a slightly dodgy overtake when approaching the final sector. Next up was Midfield Raceway, and with it being one of my favorite tracks in the game, I was ready to bounce right back and chase another victory. On the inside, there we go. Oh, don't hit me like that. 4 at one corner. Up the inside. There you have it. Clean on the inside. Nice. Number 4 is ours. After that quick win, I was now holding a relatively comfortable lead of 10 points over second place. And with the next race being at home ground, it looked like it was all going just the way I liked it. However, this is where the AI slowly started to increase their pace over me. But with all of that experience built up with the car and the game, I was ready to beat them at their own game. Up the inside, through I go. Into P5, almost P4, so it's gonna break now. And I get P4. Through I go up the inside. Gonna send it up the inside here. We got that MRS to catch. Nice, I think I'm gonna have to let him go here. Unless, hold up. Definitely lunge of the century. Go, 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 go! Right up to the line, come on! Come on! Come on, speed, let's go! The drag line to the back race to the finish! With 2 major sends up the inside, both of which I will dedicate to Daniel Ricciardo, I had managed to edge out another victory. And with the next race being only a couple of states up north in Seattle, all the practice on the A7 license test paid off as well, as I was able to pass the MRS on pure momentum alone when entering the final lap. I then left it in the dust when going through the technical second sector, keeping it at a safe distance behind me to claim a surprisingly commanding victory. But this is where the AI suddenly started to get their secret extra gears, which I had to find out the hard way. Oh, that really sucks. That's gonna cause me to lose the race for sure. Even doing something like cutting chicane at the final sector. Oh wow, I was getting schooled on this track. He's gonna push me again. Yep. Ooh, I don't want to get third here. I need to get second here. Oh, I was gonna be screwed. Maybe? Ah, damn it, man. Oh, this could be bad. This could be bad. And I'm gonna have P3 here. Damn, man. Oh, don't push me, please. Come on. I'll push him right back then. There we go. 4.8, man. Jesus Christ. The Sylvia and MRS, and even the rally cars to an extent, started to really pick up the pace in these 3 races, which also wasn't helped by the AI's aggressiveness giving me a taste of my own medicine, and the MRS in particular flying off into the distance before I even had a chance to catch back up to it. This then brought my lead down from 18 points to only 4 points. So in order to ensure I would win the championship, I would have to finish ahead of the MRS in the final race at Grand Valley Speedway. However, not only does this final race have an additional lap, but considering the car I must beat is also the fastest on the field, it meant I had to outright win the last race. So I took the PT Bruiser to the starting grid for the final round in the championship. After performing a quadruple overtake at the second hairpin and accidentally nuking the Sylvia in the process, it was game on to catch at MRS, which was already building up a lead over the rest of the pack. The track's variety in high and low speed corners also effectively made their cars equally matched up, as I would gain some time in the hairpins while the MRS would win it in the high speed sweepers. And then, as we entered the second lap, a golden opportunity would arise. Oh, he made a mistake? Stick up the inside, get the hell out of here. My arch nemesis in this championship had a slight oversteer moment when coming out of the second hairpin, and since I already had a bit more momentum when coming out of the corner, I was able to move my way up the inside and take the lead of the race. Now, all I had to do was to keep it behind me for 1.5 more laps, and it was going to take all of my concentration to pull it off.
1 more lap to keep it behind me. This is for the championship. No draft for you. I think I'm at least a second ahead. Must be. I have to break very deep into the turn, but look at that. Look how much time I've gained here. Ooh, that's a tight line. Tighter than the pencil of the Bee Gees. Come on. Up the exit. Come on, come on. I think this is it. 1 more turn. Come on, PT Cruiser, you can do this. Clean. I think we got it. I think we got it, guys. Let's go! Let's go! Oh, that was the clutch victory I needed. Holy. Oh, I had to work for that one.
The PT Bruiser had done it. In my time of need, this racing truck finally delivered when it mattered the most to win my first Gran Turismo World Championship. And how did the game reward me? By giving me 50,000 credits and a jump scare.
Huh, it gives me the... Why? Out of all the cars I could have gotten from this event, this was the least expected one. That was a genuine evil jump scare.
After some comic relief by means of a yellow-colored Evo, I had now done everything I could have possibly done with the PT Cruiser in the Beginners League as well as plenty of events in the Amateur League. But after selling all my useless cars, which now brought my balance up to well over 500,000 credits, and somehow receiving yet another yellow Evo... What the fuck game? Why? There was one more thing I wanted to try with the PT Cruiser, the rally stages. In Gran Turismo 3, this requires you to obtain a completely separate license, which I think is a pretty cool feature, as the rally tests in some of the other games in the series often feel a bit out of place and are usually pretty easy to beat as well. So I headed back to the license setter to get it, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much fun these rally physics are. The tests themselves are a lot more difficult from what you would normally expect, but what really frustrated me was the 6th test in this Lancia Delta. Basically, in order to get through this set of hairpins as fast as possible, you need to have a bit of a slide and keep it throughout the corner. However, this car just doesn't slide. This was undoubtedly one of the most difficult license tests in the game for me, as it took me over 30 minutes of close calls and failed attempts to finally get a good run.
Come on. Let's go! Finally!
But all of this practice on this one set of hairpins may have not been for nothing, as I was able to not only finish the next one in a pretty short time span, I was even able to complete the final test, which is a full lap around the game's longest rally course, in a single attempt.
Oh my god, having a car that actually slides in this turret is so much better. It actually slides properly. Look at this. It was really just a Lancia. That was the problem. Okay, how close am I gonna be? We're not even close, right? Oh, wait. So fucking free, let's go! Come on! So fucking free. I'll take that.
To say that I was happy after all that suffering early on was quite an understatement. I then bought some rally tires for the cruiser, gave it a quick off-road friendly tune-up and whipped it around Smoky Mountain, and it performed surprisingly well. It certainly wasn't the best experience grip-wise, but come on, who doesn't like seeing a chunky American hatchback slide around the winding turns of a rally course like this? Eventually, this fun had to come to an end, as some of the off-road events were simply too much for the car to handle, which meant that I had now truly exhausted all possible events I could do with it. And with the next World Championship on the horizon, it was time to make one of the most important decisions of the entire run. This is because the American manufacturers in Gran Turismo 3 only have a handful of sports cars available. However, the ones that are there, like the Chevy Corvette, Dodge Viper GTS, Ford SVT Cobra and Shelby Cobra, are surprisingly similar in stock performance, although they are quite different in terms of upgrading potential. So, after running a poll, the Viper was going to be my next car of choice, and after running another one for the color, I would become the owner of a bright red Dodge Viper GTS. I then headed straight to the rear-wheel drive cup to test it out, expecting loads of wheel spin off the line without any upgrades as I play these games without traction control. But thanks to the high weight and beefy rear tires, it was surprisingly easy to put the power down, but on the other hand, the weight didn't make it quite as nimble in the corners. Then, 2 short races and wins later, I was confident enough to give the car some upgrades, and with almost 500,000 credits still left in the bank, I threw on every upgrade available for it. Now, considering it starts out at about 450 horsepower stock, how much do you think it has once you max it out? 800? 900? Maybe even 1000 horsepower? Well, what if I told you that this thing, once maxed out, reaches 1027 horsepower? So I've effectively made a naturally aspirated Hennessy Viper 1000. Now, with so much power, surely this would be an absolute death trap of a car without assists, right? Well, after giving it some proper tuning, we were treated to this.
Oh my god, oh, holy shit. Oh, it goes. It fucking goes. Oh my god, it goes.
This car turned out to be an absolute speed demon, but despite the power, remained remarkably controllable. It went on to wipe out any opposition in the first 2 rear-wheel drive leagues, and when I tested it out against some faster opponents in the game's equivalent of a DTM championship, it continued to completely crush the opposition. Now, considering how this car has been for the last few events, you're probably expecting the next event to be that second World Championship. But then my plans suddenly changed and I would set my sights on the Gran Turismo All-Stars Championship instead. This event is quite similar to the World Championship, with the only differences being the track list and a wider selection of opponents. But the most important difference was the prize car list, as I was interested in a certain infamous prize car you could get from this event. So it was time to line up on the starting grid and absolutely destroy the opposition with the overwhelming power advantage in the first few races. Unsurprisingly, when your car runs up more than double the power than your opponents, all you really need is one good straight and you'll vanish on the horizon. It also remained remarkably controllable even on harder tires, as once again these races have tire wear enabled. There was even the odd appearance of a test course race where the car was hitting speeds so high that make you want to say, yeah, that mixed reviews in the color. Some people said they like it, some people said they don't like it, and I said, what color is your Viper? It also allowed me to develop a pretty interesting driving technique for this game. If you brake very aggressively into a tight turn, and by that I really mean very aggressively, you can get the car to slide, which for cars like this is a pretty quick way to get around tight corners, at the expense of your tire durability. The later races in the All-Stars Championship did become a bit more difficult, but the car's sheer power advantage over the competition allowed me to continue claiming some dominant victories. Even though my oil quality did start to deteriorate again towards the last few races, I was still able to keep winning while basically driving around like a madman all the way up until the final round. Also, for some reason Lister Storm had to take a pit stop in these 5-lap races. Isn't it strange that my Viper, with no downforce and double the power, can use a harder tire compound and still win on race pace, even when the AI are way more conservative with their race tires and just in general being way better than me. With more downforce, they should have less tire wear. Oh hey, there's the finish line. After winning every single race in the championship, which at this point I kinda just want to get it over with, I received a whopping 200,000 credits, almost reaching 1 million in total in the bank. But I mainly came for the prize car, and after manifesting all my energy into a single roll, I can finally tell you that the car I've kept secret for all this time is a Ford GT40. Oh my god. Oh my... It freaking worked. It actually worked. My Gran Turismo free run is officially blessed. Oh my god. Out of all my prize score drops so far, I could actually not believe my luck for both the car and its color, as it shares a one-on-one resemblance to the GT40 from one of my previous and yet unreleased Gran Turismo runs. It is also the road-going version of the legendary Le Mans winning machines from the late 60s. And before you're going to say that this isn't road legal, there were over 100 of these produced in real life, and there's still replicas being produced that are road legal. So while you're writing this in the comments right now, perhaps you can move your mouse up just a little bit and hit that subscribe button, especially if you're enjoying the video so far. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. With only 300 brake horsepower and a weight of around a ton, you may think the Ford GT40 won't stand a chance against my mighty Dodge Viper. But power wasn't the reason why I was interested in this thing, and once I looked into the tuning settings, I found exactly what I needed. Downforce. At long last, I managed to find a road-going American car that not only has adequate levels of downforce, or downforce in general, but one that's also adjustable, but only for the rear in this case. This, combined with a set of super soft racing tires, allowed it to do things like this. Oh my god, the grip. I can already feel it when I enter the first turn. Okay, this car's gonna probably break my brain with how grippy it is. Okay, I can probably full throttle this whole section, can I? Oh, this is funny. This is basically like prototype levels of grip. Look at this. Oh, it doesn't even need to brake for turns. If I would tell you that my first experience with this car was great, I would be lying, because it was absolute bliss. Even though it still ran with stock power levels, it for once felt like the exact opposite of cars I've been driving so far, as for the first time, I actually felt I would have an advantage in the corners. Now, considering how insane the power upgrades in Gran Turismo 3 can be, as demonstrated by the Viper, I expected a similarly insane performance jump once I arrived at the tuning shop. However, since the car comes pre-equipped with some parts, I was only able to buy the NA tune-up to increase the car's power, of which the best upgrade increased it to 580 horsepower. A bit disappointing, but then again it also weighs much less than the Viper, and straight line speed is definitely not the priority for this car. I then took it to the Amateur MR Cup to give it a good shakedown session, and despite the reduced power, I was still surprised by how well it accelerated. The lower weight definitely seemed to help here, and the downforce allowed me to take turns a lot more confidently and with more speed than usual. Now, obviously with the MR Cup being against much slower road cars, this wasn't really a challenge for me, but what this event is quite infamous for is the AI's insane rubber bending levels after making a pit stop, which looks something like this. It was 20 seconds behind, okay? Oh my god, oh, okay. That was insane. What the fuck is this? Like, look at the front left tire of the Clio. It goes from blue instantly to green. Like, that's how quickly they wear their tires out of that corner. This is honestly one of the funniest AI behaviors in the entire series. What happens is that the AI gets stuck in a cycle in which it starts rubber bending, then wears out its tires faster, forcing them to make an early pit stop, which then causes them to fall back even more and therefore further increases their rubber bending strength. This makes them move around like you're playing Ridge Racer instead of Gran Turismo, and it's honestly quite hilarious to look at. What's also funny is how the game handles which cars are allowed to have rally tires. Let me ask you a question. Out of the Chevy Camaro SS, Mustang SVT Cobra, Dodge Viper, and Shelby Cobra, which cars have the option to equip rally tires? If you want, you can pause the video now and add it in the comments. Like, seriously, I would love to see some of your answers in this one. If you just did that or got an answer in your head, and if you chose the Mustang and only the Mustang, you would be correct. Yeah, Kazunori's vision was really what I couldn't quite figure out here, as the Mustang and PT Cruiser are the only American non-rally cars that allow you to equip rally tires. So out of curiosity, I bought the Mustang, slapped on those rally tires, better suspension and some power and drivetrain mods. I then gave it a rally-oriented tune-up and expected it to be barely functional. The game then proved me wrong very quickly.
Okay, now I can see why. Oh my god. Oh, this car's unhinged. This car is unhinged.
As if this playthrough wasn't full of surprises already, this was only the latest to add to that list. It performed remarkably well on Smoky Mountain's winding dirt track, and even once I added more power to the car, it only became more and more fun to drive. I guess this was due to the car having some beefy tires all around and a decent starting tune, so I'll leave my setup for this car in the description. I will guarantee you that this will be one of the most fun and refreshing experiences you'll have in a Gran Turismo game, or any racing game for that matter, in quite some time. Also, am I getting sidetracked? God dang. Where was I? Oh yeah, something GT40, funny rubber band. Okay, here we are. With the GT40 being dialed in quite nicely now, I could set my sights on that second Gran Turismo World Championship. This one already dials up the difficulty quite a bit, offering a similar set of opponents and events as the All-Stars Championship. But now that I had a car with a healthy amount of downforce, despite the car's looks, I was finally able to keep up in the corners too, although it was a bit on the understeery side as it had a lot more rear downforce when compared to the front. I also forgot to mention that I already did the IB license for it a while ago, but aside of the fast slalom test, which can be deceptively difficult because the assists slow you down quite a lot here, it actually was the quickest license I had obtained all gold times for so far. Anyway, going back to the Amateur World Championship, it went about the same way as the All-Stars event. The early races were a cakewalk, and even though the later races would provide a bit more resistance, partially due to my own skill issues, all of the races were just very straightforward. And then, as I cross the finish line at Grand Valley Speedway, I will be crowned the undisputed champion of my second consecutive World Championship, winning all 10 races with varying levels of dominance. It was then time to set my sights on the Professional League, and with that the ultimate goal of beating that final World Championship. But before I could even start here, I needed to get the International A license. This one finally puts you in control of a variety of race cars, but even though these tests were more difficult, they were still pretty doable. This was also helped by my chat giving me some really good suggestions, like how short shifting on this test with a Pagani Zonda will give you a few very valuable tenths of a second. And so after about 45 minutes I collected my license and paycheck, as I immediately sold the Aston Martin Vanquish they gave me for getting all the gold medals. So at this point in the playthrough I had a great collection of American road cars, all of which now tuned to perfection to tear up circuit races around the world. But before tackling that third and final World Championship, there were still 2 more cars I had to try out to see how viable they were. The first out of these 2 was the infamous Shelby Cobra, of which this color scheme had some striking similarities to a Ravenwest livery from Grid. Despite it having more power than the Viper when stock, however, the power upgrades were a bit disappointing on this car, with it only having a bit more power than my GT40 when maxed out. It does at least weigh slightly less, so even though it was probably not going to beat the GT40, it did have some pretty good stats. When I took it to the track, however, I quickly found out that while it may not be the fastest car in my garage, it is undoubtedly the coolest one.
You just drifted so much. Just keep going, man. Just keep on going.
Now, let me be clear. The Shelby Cobra is not an easy car to drive, even when tuned. But since this game makes sliding around a pretty viable driving tactic, it can be a surprisingly quick car if you know how to use its drifty handling to your advantage. So after doing the Spider and Roadster Cup, since this is literally the only American car that can do it, there was one more car left to test out. But hold on a second, that funny looking yellow color for the cover just gave me an idea.
It's just noise. It's just noise. It's just noise. My stomach. Breathe. My stomach. I'm getting stomach pain from this. Oh god, it's art.
With the quota for yellow cars and ear cleaning services now satisfied, it was time to actually set my sights on that final car. However, buying 2 Shelby Cobras, one of which just for the memes, almost bankrupted me, so I had to get some more money. This is where the Dream Car Championship comes in, an event that puts you up against a variety of fantasy race cars. I decided to pull the Viper out for another run, and considering these cars are about as quick as the ones we've encountered in other big championships earlier, it was yet another easy victory all around. In fact, the sheer power advantage was so insane that I managed to take the lead at Special Stage Route 11 in just 15 seconds. Ooh, the dive bomb, come on. Speeders! Get the hell out of here. Nice. Easy dive bomb for P1. After winning all 7 races, yes, 7 as that was apparently Kazunori's vision on this one, and doing some celebratory showboating in the final race, I will become the champion of the Dream Car Championship, giving me plenty of money to try out the last car, which is this 5th generation Corvette Z06. Once I maxed the car out, it was a few hundred horsepower below the Viper, but compensated for that by being a bit lighter and being by far the easiest car to drive out of the ones used in this run, even being more well behaved than the GT40. So if you want to try this challenge for yourself or just try something new, be sure to get this Corvette as it's a pretty good all-rounder. But just like when Thanos obtained all the Infinity Stones, I had now obtained all of the fastest American road-going machines you can find in Gran Turismo 3. So it was finally time to prepare myself for the ultimate test. Now, just like with some of my previous runs, I had to do a couple of test sessions to see which car will be best suited to take on the final Gran Turismo World Championship. Since I will be up against some of the fastest vehicles in the game, I will need to really make sure that the car I am bringing is indeed the best possible choice. So I headed over to Home Solo at Laguna Seca to begin the first test session. The Corvette was up first, which once again proved to be a stable and dependable car alongside some impressively powerful brakes, allowing me to steadily improve my lap times until I had set a pretty respectable benchmark time of just under 1 minute and 19 seconds. I then took the Viper out for a spin, and while it was a lot more difficult to control, which was shown in the inconsistent lap times, I managed to be nearly a second faster after only 2 laps, and when I did a couple more, that advantage would increase to more than a second. It was then time to test out the GT40, and after only a single lap, it instantly beat the Viper by over a second. The downforce really made the difference here. While the Viper's brute strength made it somewhat competitive in the first 2 sectors, it ended up being absolutely destroyed once the corkscrew came around. And since there weren't many reasons to test the other cars as they would have about the same performance as the Corvette, the GT40 will be the clear winner here. Just to make sure, I did do a recording of the Shelby Cobra while recording this voiceover, and yeah, it was not as quick as GT40, not even close. Now, to make sure this wasn't down to the track favoring handling over pure power, I did another comparison between the Viper and the GT40 at Midfield Raceway, a much more power-focused track than Laguna Seca. Although it initially looked like the two were pretty evenly matched, I eventually managed to make proper use of the Ford's downforce and carry much higher speed through the track's high-speed bends, which proved to easily outweigh the brute force of the Viper. So with my car of choice now locked in, I did some real preparations by giving it multiple washes, an oil change, and a set of new racing rims. Now, don't worry, I didn't do something as sacrilegious as putting strawberry rims on this thing. Unless... Anyway, my car was now ready to enter the 3rd and final World Championship. This, however, will be by far the most difficult event of the entire run. A variety of legendary Le Mans machinery awaited me here, and since races now last even longer, I would have to think about tire and pit stop strategies as well. And what better place to start than at Grand Valley Speedway, one of the game's longest and most iconic circuits. And so, with everything set up and ready to go, I took a deep breath and hit start. The lights went out and away we went, and I was very surprised by the car's ability to keep up until the first hairpin. And by just threading the needle between the 2 frontrunners twice in a row, I managed to snatch an early P2, and after I had the momentum over the 787B in front, I swung around the outside to take first place. At this point, you may expect me to drive off into the sunset with an easy victory and call it a day, but you have to keep those tire strategies in mind, and in this first race, I had no idea what my opponents would pit, if they would even do so at all. All I knew though was that my tires would last around 5 laps, so I tried to increase the gap as much as possible and I dove into the pits at the halfway point, and wouldn't you know it, the Toyota GT1 was coming in with me as well. The Mazda and Nissan did not though, so with a set of fresh tires, I tried to catch up as fast as I could, and catching up I did. After a pretty strong outlap, the gap went down from 15 seconds to around 9, so at this rate I would catch the 787B by the final lap. I first had to clear the Nissan R390 though, but that became light work after seeing it visibly struggle with its tires. That now meant that I had 3 more laps to catch the leader, and with 2 more laps to go, I brought the deficit down to only 5 seconds, and as I made it through the track sectors, that tiny orange and green prototype in the distance kept getting bigger and bigger. And with a very sketchy S-bend line, I found an extremely unlikely and honestly quite accidental opportunity, and took it immediately. I'll take the dive bomb regardless, come on!
There we go. I'll take the dive bomb regardless.
However, it seemed like I played my hand a bit too early as my front tires completely caved in towards the final sectors. So the 787B took revenge in the final hairpin in a similarly aggressive fashion. And with my left front tire completely destroyed, all I could do was watch what would become one of my main rivals sprint towards the finish line as I limped home in 2nd place.
Damn, that really sucks.
But I had no time to weep over this loss. The next race will be at Apricot Hill, a track where the AI has historically been pretty strong, but since it's a lot shorter than Grand Valley, at least I didn't have to worry about my tires as much. Although I had a pretty bad start, the AI's apparent lack of understanding in how to navigate through chicane allowed me to quickly take 3rd place, and a few turns later, I managed to pass the 787B in style.
Oh, that exit. Nutty.
I then did the same thing to the R390 to take the lead within a single lap, after which I could slowly build on my lead. Aside from the GT1 coming around to say hi in the 2nd lap, the next 3 were just me and the track, trying to make sure that my deficit to the lead group would be as little as possible once I entered the pits. When I then left them, I had to regain 12.5 seconds, and at the pace I was driving, I would have just enough pace to catch up to the R390 again. But in the penultimate lap, I encountered the other rival in the 787B again, which I thought I had dealt with swiftly, until it came back with a vengeance.
Oh no, don't push me off like that. Oh no, I think now we have a problem. Oh my fucking god, why are you standing still on the chicane? Wait, there's actually traffic. He may be held up by the traffic because that's just slow. I have to get a massive final sector here if I want to get past him. If I have a chance. I think it's too much. Damn it, man. God fucking damn it. The 87B ruined it again. Damn, that really sucks again.
All of this fighting, as well as admittedly a few skill issues, cost me just too much time to have a shot at the race win, leaving me to be 2nd best once again. Since the R390 had won it though, I was only 2 points behind both of my main rivals, and with the 3rd race being at the streets of Special Stage Route 5, I was in a prime position to strike back.
Already into lead, come on, this is good.
Within a single turn, I had managed to pass everyone on the inside and instantly take the lead. Since the AI is not nearly as good here as in the previous race, I was able to sprint away into the distance and build a lead of over 6 seconds when entering the 2nd lap. All I had to do now was to build up a rhythm and keep increasing that lead, which, after 2 frustrating losses, felt refreshing and relaxing. After building a gap to 2nd place that would make Jos Verstappen proud, I entered the pits, left it while still being in the lead, and within 13 minutes cruised towards victory, even being able to lap some of the back markers. So now with a win finally in the bag, I had turned my 2-point deficit into a 2-point lead. If I wanted to stay there however, I would have to defend it at no better place than Trial Mountain, a track that should put me and my opponents on pretty much equal ground. So with no time to waste, I line up on the starting grid, and once the lights went out, that statement was quickly validated as I was immediately thrown into a fierce battle. Although my initial mistakes and the 787B's attempt to pump me out of contention weren't really that helpful. I was also not expecting the R390 to be so strong here, as it managed to hold on to a battle with me for almost a full lap. So after I broke free in the second lap, I was only able to create a gap of a measly 7 seconds before entering the pits for my second set of tires, even leaving me behind the Toyota GT1. But thanks to a very short pit lane and the power of a raid from Guru HS, I was ready to give them a show to be proud of.
9 seconds is what we have to gap. 8.2. 6.7, we're catching him fast. Come on. Already in sight. I'm pushing it so hard right now. Pushing the balls of this car. 4.0. Don't make a mistake. Oh, let's go! That could have not been more conveniently timed. That could have been no more conveniently timed than that. 2.8. We're catching him rapidly. Now we have to get past them. That's the next part. We connect it back to them. But passing him is another problem. It has filled into the pass, so I have to be careful here. Overspeed. Second gear. Up the inside. One down. Changing lines. Better exit. Drafting for some more speed. On the side. Take it up the inside. Come on, come on, come on! Let's go. I just have to make sure I don't cook the tires. Don't fuck it up now. Oh shit! That was very dangerous. I took way too much grip there. Just take it easy. Just bring it home. We're gonna have a firm lead in the championship. One more time for the chicane. Left and right. Oh, there we have it. Let's go. Let's go.
The victory at Trial Mountain was mine, extending my lead to 8 points over both the R390 and 787B. With the momentum of the championship now in my favor, I took it with me straight in the next race at Deep Forest Raceway. After squeezing up the inside in turn 1, I only needed a decent exit to pass the R390, giving me a quick lead and allowing me to sprint away on this relatively short track. I once again entered the pits at the halfway point, and with only a single lap, the frontrunners were already in sight. It then only took me a single corner to pass the 787B and GT1, as the latter had to make a pit stop again, and another half lap to pass the R390, the latter of which I was able to pass purely on momentum.
Well, look at this. Fully on momentum. Fully on momentum we're passing him here. That just shows how much better the car is here than the other guys.
I then went on to set up a dominant lead, putting down some strikingly consistent lap times as I then lapped both the Esperante and GT40 race car for the second time to claim a hat-trick of victories, now leading the championship with a comfortable 12 points. But then after building all of the momentum, the game decided to hit me in the face with a curveball as race number 6 would be held at Test Course.
It's Test Course. Okay, we're doing it.
This one would unsurprisingly be a very difficult one for me as I don't have nearly as much power as my opponents. But maybe with some clever gearbox tuning I could at least make the car competitive. So after tinkering with the gear ratios for about 15 minutes and reducing the rear downforce, I managed to figure out the optimal setup, allowing the car to consistently keep its speed above a pretty impressive 340 km per hour. I then started the race, and despite a slower start than the others, I managed to quickly climb up the ranks once the first long bend came around. And 30 seconds later, I crept up to the 787B in the lead, slingshotting myself past it with around 240 miles per hour, a speed even modern Indy cars barely reach. The draft I had was so powerful that I had built a comfortable lead, so this race quickly turned into an impromptu Q&A session as I counted down the laps. However, the 787B then started creeping back up to me again, and just before starting the penultimate lap, it managed to catch back up to me. It seemed like the 787B was hard capped at around 350 km per hour, but was able to keep it at that speed much more easily due to the power advantage. I then allowed it to repass me right again before the final lap, expecting that a single draft on the first straight would secure the win for me. But then as I came around the final turn, A combination of personal fatigue, as I had streamed for quite some time at this point, and a less than ideal strategy call allowed the 787B to catch up as I slowed down too much in the final turn. And all I could do was witness it pass me right before the finish line, leaving me in second place, only 37 thousandths of a second down.
He's just too quick on that final one. The slingshot was not enough. Damn it, man. I'll take the L there. That's unfortunate.
This loss really sucked. Especially since it was just like the 2024 Indianapolis 500 finish, in which Pedal Award did the exact same thing only to lose out in the end, and I even watched that race so I could have known this may happen to me as well. One silver lining was that the R390 somehow finished down in 5th place, so at least I could still gain points on one of my main rivals. But with 4 more races to go and my lead barely in the double digits, I decided to hit the bed and return fresh the next day to finish the championship. Only to be immediately confronted with my most dreaded track in the game, Special Stage Route 11. And to make matters worse, I had to do it in reverse, something which I had never done up until this point in the playthrough. I then also realized that right before finishing the test course race, my oil was starting to deteriorate, so my deficit in horsepower would only be bigger for the remainder of the championship. So for the first time, I decided to enter the qualifying session, making it double as a warm-up run as well. After throwing on some better tires to do a good qualifying run, I quickly found out that the AI is actually surprisingly competent in the qualifying sessions, unlike in Gran Turismo 4, and even more surprisingly, the Toyota GT1 will be the pole time to beat. Since the first sector is such a massive slugfest, and even more so in the GT40, I would already be down by 1.5 seconds here, but the later section turned out to be better for me, and then when entering the final sector, I managed to pull a Max Verstappen-esque run, clinching pole position by just a few tenths of a second. But just when you thought that the championship was going in the right direction again, I didn't even realize my biggest problem yet. The car was actually still on the test course tune. Because of the softer tires in qualifying and the time between this and the test course race, I didn't notice this until somewhere in the middle of the actual race. And having lower rear downforce on the track with a bunch of low and medium speed turns is definitely less than ideal. So, to summarize, this 7 race was on one of my worst tracks, while driving a car on the wrong setup that desperately needed its oil replaced, and in technically a must-win situation to ensure I would keep at least a comfortable lead. However, this then all culminated into a performance that will make the likes of Ken Miles proud.
Yeah, I definitely find that chicane as tricky as I do. That's good. You stay very far on the left and then just chug it in like that. There we go, clean. Okay, the AI loses by far the most time on this final sector. Yeah, I instantly get the GT1 here. Almost actually beat my personal best there on harder tires. Okay, take this corner wide this time. Not that wide, come on, what am I doing at that turn, man? That turn is so tricky, I don't know some of the line through there is yet. So I can handle this car just fine with no downforce. Because the drifting actually kind of helps to keep the car through the turns. Right, pit stop time. Let's see how far I'm gonna be behind and how much I have to catch up, because I know that pit lane is pretty long here apparently. Okay, I don't care about the GT1, that guy has to pit himself anyway. There's these two next to me right now. Okay, let's count. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 seconds from when they left the pit lane. Wait, wait. Oh, I'm ahead of a 77B, what? How is he so slow here? That makes my job a whole lot easier. Oh, the tires feel so good now. Okay, 15.2, let's see if we can catch up. I think also the GT1's not holding up the R390 with bad tires. It's good for us. Okay, I think, yeah, the GT1's pitting in, so now it's only just me and the R390. This could be a really good win if I get this. Definitely go at him in the sector. Up the inside, here we go, let's go, come on. Oh, you're gonna try to block me? Try this. Oh, oh no, what are you... Okay, yeah, okay. I see how it is. Better exit than him? Yeah, but you deserve. If you can only do that, I can do that too. There you go. Oh, you think you got me on the exit? That's try harder, boy. I think we got him. I think we got him. There it is, guys. He got what he deserved and then some. Oh, that's satisfying. That is satisfying. And I got punted off by the GT1, by the R390 GT1. I still won it. That is a massive dub right there, and a massive L for the R390. I think the good thing is though, because the 77B finished 4th. Look at this, guys. I'm 17 points ahead in the championship. This is insane. This is helping me so much in the championship. With that hard-fought victory against the R390, I would claim my 4th victory in the championship. My excitement then went through the roof, as the next race was at Tokyo Route 246. And now with my car actually using the correct setup, I dove straight into the race. And then I got reminded why this track is almost completely downforce and power based. It only took a few laps before my deficit to the lead car was in the double digits, and by the time I came into the pits, there was absolutely no chance for me to do anything in this race. Although I still enjoyed the driving experience here as it's one of my favorite tracks in the series, it would effectively nullify all of the points gained from the last race. Now, a 12-point lead is still nothing to scoff at, but this would give the R390 and 787B an opportunity to still take away the championship, especially since the game threw another curveball at me with the next race being at Monaco. And not only is the track I barely raced on, just like with Special Stage Route 11, it is somehow the one and only track where the game decides to up the lap count to 15. So in order to make sure I would not end up completely ruining my chances here, I first did some proper practice, and after experimenting with the tire compounds to ensure I could still do a one-stop race, I also managed to set a qualifying lap, which surprisingly was well beyond the pace of my main rivals. So with a bit of confidence reclaimed, I lined up on the starting grid for the penultimate race. After squeezing the GT1 and defending my lead in the first sector, I had that red car hot on my tail throughout the first half of the lap, until I got a better exit towards the casino tunnel. This then set me up for a small gap that increased steadily over time, but by the end of the 5th lap my two actual main rivals were around 20 seconds behind me. Perhaps lack of power could be a blessing for me here, as I was significantly faster through the low speed corners. And with the tires holding up very nicely over the halfway point in the race, I simply entered the pits at the end of lap 9, and thanks to the GT1 having already made a pit stop at this point, I would still be a very comfortable 18 seconds ahead. And as the lap counter approached that magic number, there was nothing left standing in the way as I would become the Gran Turismo 3 World Champion. One more corner to go. Out of the final chicane we go. And across the line, let's go. And with that, we should be the winner of the championship. With my championship lead now at 18 points, there was no way I could lose the championship anymore. But that didn't particularly mean I was done yet, as the final race would bring us back where it all began, at Grand Valley Speedway. This time though, I had learned from my mistakes throughout the championship and installed a harder front tire compound. And with only my pride still left on the line, it was time for the final race. After a beautiful first sector, the Toyota GT1 seemed to give it their all for this final race, which then led to a pretty fierce battle. I was able to reclaim some time at the hairpins, but the long sweepers and straights allowed it to keep up and pass me a couple of times. But once we entered the second half of lap 2, the GT1 could no longer stay within slipstream range, allowing me to sprint away into a lead that was slowly and surely building up over time. And now with all of my tires actually going the distance, all that was left for me to do was to grab that final set of fresh tires and catch up to my no-stopping rivals. And with all the experience gains, I was catching them fast. Like, really fast. In fact, in only a single lap, I brought the gap down by over 8 seconds. And once we left the central tunnel on lap 7, I was already side by side with the R390, after which I easily took the lead and vanished on the horizon. So as the sun set at the racetrack, so would this championship. And after making the mileage exceed the distance of 3 Formula 1 races, I would cross the finish line to claim the title of the undisputed World Champion. Did it, guys. With a victory 360, it's over. GG. With a whopping 81 points and a 23-point lead over the R390 in second, I had completed the 3rd and final World Championship. And after collecting a Ford GT40 race car, which for once actually required me to re-roll the random reward, the challenge was completed.
but I wanted to see if we could go above and beyond by entering the Formula Gran Turismo Championship and checking if I would have any chance in at least one of the races. So in order to do that, I got myself the S license, had a quick intermission with the Dodge Viper and Like the Wind, in which is now 1100 horsepower strong car, easily exceeded 440 kilometers per hour, and proceeded to check out the Formula GT Champion. Oh wait, I need to have a Formula 1 car for this? It's racing cars only, really? That is such a mood killer. Wow, okay, that is just stupid. Yeah, Kazunori definitely did not like my vision on this one, as this event only allows race cars. Not that it would really matter though, as the racing version of the GT4 stood absolutely no chance on any of the main tracks. So instead, in similar fashion to my Gran Turismo 2 run, I took my rally spec Mustang out for one last rally ride. Overall, I was amazed by how varied this run turned out to be, especially since, once again, Gran Turismo 3 has one of the least amount of cars for a mainline title. It also introduced a healthy dose of new memes and interesting car builds, as the SVT Cobra is now by far my favorite rally car in the game. And who knows, maybe I'll have more ideas for GT3 in the future, or perhaps maybe you have an idea for a challenge run. But that'll have to be a story for another time. If you'd like to see how that will unfold though, make sure to like the video and subscribe, and let me know in the comments or on my Discord server what you would like to see next. I'll leave the links for this, my Twitch channel, emulation settings, and anything else in the description below. And if you can't wait for any new content, make sure to check out my second channel, where I post highlights, meme videos, and anything in between. And lastly, a huge thank you for making my GT4 used car video reach over 1 million views. It's honestly something I would have never expected to happen, and perhaps it finally reminded me to work on its sequel, which I've kept away from for so long. But with that said, it is time for me to work on the next video. So all that's left for me to say is that I would like to thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day. Oh.